City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded August 6, 2024.
We will call the meeting to order. If we can have roll call, please.
Quirk.
Barron,
Here.
Kirschling,
Here.
Ostrowski,
Here.
Zenner.
Here. And Morozak is excused. Number 2, the President's report. A couple things that I want to talk about is September, October, November meeting. I believe that we should move these meetings September because it's the day after Labor Day. If the 10th, get to Candy on whether the dates work or not. If they don't work, we can pick another one. September 10th. October is on the 1st, and that's always difficult for the chiefs to get their reports in on that day. So I suggest we move that one to the 8th. And then November is Election Day, and so we can either move that one to the 7th or the 12th. So if those are horrible dates, let Candy know, but we can make those executive decisions later. The second thing is I would like to move all the meetings from 2 o'clock to 1 o'clock moving forward. And that's all I have for the President's report. Number 3, approval of minutes.
Mr. President,
Yep.
one thing under the request for November, you had mentioned the 7th or the 11th.
The 12th?
The 12th.
Yep.
As one of the department heads, I would recommend we go with the 7th. That way the PFC gets the opportunity to meet before committees meet that following Monday. And that always makes things easier for the 2 department heads.
Okay.
Just a recommendation.
Yep. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, approval of minutes.
Senator, approve the minutes, place them on file as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Number 4, confirmation of bills. Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. President. First one up is the police department. Nothing big other than the expense for ammo, but that's a yearly thing. It runs that way. There's one thing that needs to be pointed out. You see a payment to someone for $2,965. That's a quartered action return of funds. That's nothing unusual. I mean, nothing buy and borrowed. It's something that money that was confiscated and had to be returned. So nothing unusual there. All the rest of their bills are totally in line with the annual renewal policy of Alexipol. That's been very similar for ongoing. Their yearly budgets are running up and down in different areas, but overall they're right on par where they should be. Next department on up, the fire department, nothing at all unusual on there, and same with the EMT service. Their bills are all right in line. With that, I would make a recommendation we approve the bills as submitted.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I do have one quick question. On the 5.56 rounds, for that cost, how many rounds do we, roughly, how many do we buy?
I would have to look into that. I can get back to you, though.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, a second. Any other questions, comments? All right, all those in confirmation of the bill say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Number 5, discussion with possible action on approval of police department capital budget request for 2025. Number 1, handheld portable radios. Number 2, infrastructure /tower for east side reception. And number 3, the squad radios.
Correct, and I'm going to have Lieutenant Einbrook stand up to the podium right away. I wouldn't be able to put this together without his help. What we looked at for capital is what's important and what's needed here at the department, not necessarily a want, but a need. And our handheld radios are over 10 years old, and some of them are starting to fail, and it's hard to find parts for them. And we are using up our spares to get the parts. And so we ended up meeting with Northway, Nielsen, Baycom, and Motorola about the handheld radios and the squad radios and the infrastructure. And we decided as a team for the number one thing we need is portable radios. And I'm going to say the portable radios are number one. It's not a want. At this point, it's a need. I cannot have our officers out in the field not have confidence in their portable radios, because if they're out and about with an individual by themselves, they've got to be able to reach us. And just recently, we ended up having that SWAT call out in Amherst that we assisted with. We ended up having a domestic last week where there was a shooting that took place. We had an incident where an individual got in an altercation at a bar this weekend, took off running from law enforcement. He ended up being tased, and it was in the middle of a field by Pacelli. They called for backup. Officers got there, and one of our female officers got struck in the face 3 times, punched hard, and her hair pulled. And portable radios, they need to work no matter what, because they would have never been able to notify anybody else that they were in the middle of the Pacelli field. So as a chief, the portable radios are extremely important to us. The infrastructure, what I'm talking about, is right now we have a tower or an antenna here at Gerke, and that's for our primary channel. And with that, we can cover the entire city. But our TAC, which is our secondary channel, our antenna is on the water tower, because that used to be more of the center of the city. Now we've got the Forest Creek subdivision. We've got Badger Avenue that's being placed out there. The city just purchased a bunch of property, so the east side's getting further and further out, and our TAC channel does not work that far out. That infrastructure, we're asking to be moved from the tower to this tower so that we have the same exact coverage as our primary channel. The other thing is with the handheld radios, we did have some faults where we had to put repeaters like at Spash in order to get communication up there. Well, Lieutenant Einbrook's gone around the city, and there's been dead zones with our current portables. The new portables that we're requesting actually have a feature called LTE, and he can explain it a little bit more than I can, but that actually allows us to have that communication inside any of the buildings around here as well, so that helps us. The squad radios, again, those are just as old, a little over 10 years. It's not as important as the handhelds or the infrastructure, because they're not abused as much as the handheld radios. And I will let, if you guys have any questions about it, I'll let Lieutenant Einbrook kind of explain how we came to this and what they actually offer versus dual band and single band, if you want all that technology stuff.
Yeah, I think once over for the commission would be good, and for the citizens.
Sure. So right now we're kind of Motorola, which is one of what we currently have, and we'd like to stick with their new radio platform, which is going to go into effect within this next budget year that we're looking for capital. So the newer radios are kind of like a combined capability, if you will, for layman's terms, like a cell phone capability and our radio. And they also can work on Wi-Fi. So why is this important to us or the department? So typically we have standalone coverage, which is radios and radio towers, which is important to have as well. The LTE feature increases our capabilities. As an example, currently, if we go to the Spirus ER close to Crossroad Commons, our officers inside of there with our regular radio cannot always hear or transmit in there. So we did some testing with the LTE capabilities with Motorola, and most corporations or buildings will have cell phone boosters, and so the LTE, which is like a cellular coverage, supplements our current radio infrastructure. So it kind of is an addition to. Eventually with the city moving to the east side, part of this is Motorola's looking at, because this capital request is for the next 10 years. So we sat down as a team and said, what do we need for the next 10 years? What technology do we need to be relevant? And so this is the next form of technology that we're looking to get, so we, as a city, stay relevant and we can expand our capabilities as we need to move to the east side. And I would imagine eventually we'd have to look at adding additional tower as well on the east side to increase our coverage. So the portable radios, they have a lot of capabilities, basically. They'll be single band is what we're looking at, but again, it's combined LTE, it can utilize Wi-Fi. Some of the features that I'm not sure that we'll go with, but these are capable, if they are capable of locating officers where they're at on a screen, geolocate. So dispatch could potentially, if we go with that route, the locate officers. As an example, an officer gets in a foot chase, they're in backyards, they don't know exactly where they are. Dispatch can look and locate that officer via their radio, potentially. Currently, we have similar capabilities with our body cams that we have currently through Axon, but not as convenient, potentially. So that's what I know it's a lot of money and investment, but again, these are a lifeline for our officers, and it needs to work. And so we're working with a lot of vendors and teams to make I guess the best system that we can currently, and then we can't foresee the future, obviously, with technology increasing or advancing, but any specific questions?
Yes, you said the dispatch would be able to identify where the officer is. That would then assist him or her in calling for extra help if they needed it.
Correct. So, I'm not sure if we'll go with that, but these new radios have that capability. So it's kind of what we're looking at. There's a number of factors going into it. We're told from Motorola is that these new style radios capabilities are going to be available in the next year when we're looking at purchasing. They're phasing out what we currently have as technology. So I don't necessarily know if we have a choice to get older technology, but these newer technologies, there's room for expansion and additional features as they develop because of the technology and the hardware, so to speak.
Okay.
Lieutenant, just looking at in the future, I think it's 2026, and this may be for the chief on the budget, but you have the repeater systems up for renewal, and that's $45,000. If I'm hearing you correctly, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse here because we need to assess it in the field, but is the potential exists with these new radios to eliminate those repeaters in the future, or is that?
So, there is that potential. It's very astute of you to read into that. There is that potential. However, part of my concern is, and maybe we're all aware, we utilize FirstNet LTE, which is like AT&T, but it's for public safety. Now, not that long ago, they were hacked. So, while I want to use this LTE capabilities, it's not something that they ensure us that it's reliable, and I believe that to be the case. However, I would like to have a standalone system, that being the radio system, and then supplement with the LTE as well. So yes, so as an example. So prime example of it is that, so since there's been some remodeling going on, that has gone on in Ben Franklin Junior High, we have an SRO station there. He noticed that, and we also had a recent rescue task force training this past summer there. Radio signals prior to the remodeling was adequate. Now, currently, it's not adequate. Now, we did some testing with these newer radios with LTE, and that was able to reach, and we were able to utilize these radios in areas that our current system would not support. Another example was be a Spirus ER or emergency room or department.
One question on this, Lieutenant Brook, because he was asking about the vehicle repeater system.
Oh.
So currently what we have is we have 2 squads that actually have repeaters in them. So when we do get a call like at Ben Franklin Junior High, we're inside the building, or Aspirus, say it was a critical incident, we would make sure that one of those squads is parked in that vicinity. Then when we radio communicate, that VRS would be on, that would act as our repeater. So it would go from that to the squad to dispatch. That's what we're talking about here. The quote for the new vehicle radios at $410,000, did that include VRS repeaters in there or not?
I'd have to double check on that.
Yeah.
So we have a stationary repeater that's in SPASH as well. Mm-hmm. So we have 3 vehicle repeaters, one for the special purpose SWAT bus, van, and 2 squads, and then at SPASH.
The squad cars do not have Wi-Fi in them right now, correct?
No, they currently do. So currently, because we went with Fleet 3 Axon, so they have a ruggedized router in, which is called a Cradle Point. And so that provides a Wi-Fi signal within a certain radius. However, it's based on the cellular signal, like a SIM card is what you would call it.
Okay.
We're hearing so much lately about radios not being in sync with each other. With these new radios, would they be in sync with the fire department, EMS also?
So that's, currently we have that capability as far as interoperability is what we refer to it as, and where we can communicate and at least hear streets and other city departments. That is one of our goals, is to maintain that.
And would
Now,
that
obviously-
also be with the sheriff's department as well?
Correct, have those different channels, and we're also looking to add channels from the state, WISCOM channels, where that kind of came up in relevance is the golf tournament we had last year or other major events. The state has its own infrastructure as well that we could utilize and have interoperability with state agencies and local agencies as well. And we currently have it with fire department and our local law enforcement in the county and outside the county. What the exclusion would be is that we have our police channel. I don't believe EMS and fire can copy it if we're on encrypted or coded.
So we understand that it is a lot of money to ask for, but it's more of a need than a want. So what we're asking for is approval to send that forward to committees and then to council. We're asking for $550,000 for 52 handheld radios, and that includes all the servicing and uploading of all the software we need. We're asking for $65,000 for the infrastructure move from the water tower to the Gerke Tower, and then $410,000 for the vehicle radios for every one of the vehicles.
Okay. I just have a question for Mary. Do you appreciate, as liaison and a council member, the importance?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, who's going to suffer? Because in my mind, public safety comes first.
Yep.
But, and I would advocate for that. I'm just one vote, but I think by and large, the council generally will approve funding like this.
Okay. Then I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions for the chief and lieutenant. All right.
Is there keep up with the technology, and you've got to be able to communicate. It's pretty much, in my mind, a no-brainer.
Is there a subscription or maintenance that goes on, like you guys are, you have to sign up for like a 10-year maintenance or a warranty or anything like that?
Yeah, there are different packages for maintenance, and some of that's included. Part of it, like is LTE coverage, would be included in this. So that's a per radio fee to have service. It's much less, from what I'm told, than like say your cell plan service for each cell phone. But again, in order for it to work, you can't just have a device that's capable. You got to pay for the service as well. And I think that was kind of included with what we're asking for.
All right. We have a motion to approve the capital budget request.
I will make a motion to approve such, for the police department, the capital budget requests number 1, 2, and 3.
I would second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any more questions or discussion?
Came in at the right time.
Is that a question for the community? We're doing a live feed right now? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Number 6, the police chief's report. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Ben. Police chief's report. The first thing I'm going to announce is I will have to leave after I'm done with this. We do have the National Night Out, which is taking place up off of Red Arrow and First. It is put together by Lieutenant Johnson, who's been working with Gamber Johnson, and it's about police and community relations. I know firefighters are going to be up there as well, and it's bringing the whole neighborhood into one area and getting to know our firefighters and our law enforcement here in Stevens Point. And it's going to be going on from 3 to 7, so if you can make it up there, I will be cooking the hot dogs. Other than that, Obviously, Officer Christy Arns did retire in July 19th, after serving 25-plus years here in the city. She was instrumental in getting our crisis intervention officer position up and running here. Shortly after her retirement, on July 22nd, we had promotions, and we swore in Sergeant Rob Roser to be our next lieutenant, and Lead Officer Ross Wiersma to become our next sergeant. And Officer Cole O'Neill, was assigned to the lead officer position. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about is on July 25th, we had gotten a call from the county to assist in a mutual aid call of an individual who was armed and dangerous and had attempted to murder a Sauk County deputy. And so we responded with the county and Marathon County, and it ended up being a 2-day standoff. And I just want to thank the entire community. I want to thank everybody at the Stevens Point Police Department, at the fire department. The community and the law enforcement community was absolutely amazing. After we ended up being there, almost some of our officers worked 24 hours. They worked 5 in the morning till 5 in the morning the next day. We had to get more teams here to actually take the perimeter, and every single department we called, Wood County, Rapids, Marshfield, Wapaka, came down without even hesitating and took the perimeter so that at least some of us could get about 4 hours of sleep and then return. It ended probably the best way it possibly could. No officers were injured in this, but I just wanted to kind of commend the entire community and all the law enforcement agencies and the fire departments for actually being there. Amherst Fire Department was an incredible host, and everybody that joined us was incredible. The community reached out to us. Every single hour, somebody would bring us food to bring to the perimeter people. They'd bring us water and Gatorade, and it was just absolutely amazing how it all went off. And so I just want to thank everybody for that. And that's all I've got.
All right. A motion to accept.
Motion to accept the chief's report as submitted, also along with our thanks for his department's service.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? For the chief, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
See you later.
Number 7, discussion with possible action to approve an intern from UWSP to assist with department needs effective fall semester of 2024. Chief Moody.
Yes, so we were approached by an individual from UWSP about a program called the Pointers Connection Internship Program. And what it is it's an internship program that is a paid internship through UWSP that allows us to bring an intern into the fire department and be able to have them work with us as a paid intern 225 hours each semester for the fall and the spring semester, and an additional 375 hours during the summer. The reimbursement or this paid intern would receive anywhere between $10 and $12 an hour. And the only way that this program would actually work is the generous donations from Century Insurance to keep this program running. So what ends up happening is if we actually go out and get an intern for this paid internship program, the city would pay for the intern $10 to $12 an hour, and then the university reimburses the city. So the cost to the fire department, there is no cost. It would be zero. What we would like to do is take advantage of this opportunity and create a public relations / marketing coordinator to work with the City of Stevens Point fire chiefs and staff to promote and recruit for the Stevens Point Fire Department. The Public Relations Communications Coordinator will be responsible for a lot of upcoming events that will happen within the Stevens Point Fire Department. They will work with us on getting ready for the next public activity or career fair and really promote the Stevens Point Fire Department in many different ways. We did also include in there like a job description and some of their primary duties and what they would be doing within the department. And so what I am looking for is a discussion with possible approval to move forward with this position and getting that person in the door at the Stevens Point Fire Department. We will have to go through a hiring process, which closes August 23rd. It's through handshake, and then we would actually put this person in place yet this fall at the fire department. Yes, sir.
Question, if you get a candidate that just isn't working out, who is the person that makes the decision and terminates that one or replaces it?
Ultimately, that would end up at my office level, but they'll be working more closely with the two assistant chiefs and moving things forward on both sides of the house.
I gotta say, in my building, when it's a net cost to the city and it can benefit the department, I don't see any objections to it.
What's a non-traditional student? Do you know?
A non-traditional student would be
Someone that's, no, old.
Someone that's not old?
No, someone, I was a joke. Someone that's old. That's,
normally a non-traditional student would be somebody who doesn't come right out of high school and continue on for their continuing education for their bachelor's degree.
So it says junior or senior status, 2.0 GPA, plus a first-generation college student, Pell eligible, or non-traditional students.
Right, so if someone went back for their bachelor's degree later in life, but they were in that junior or senior level and they met that GPA, they would.
That's a non-traditional?
Yes.
So they would not be eligible?
No, they still would be in this.
Oh, it's saying, plus the following, a first
Yes.
generation or so anyone's, okay.
Yes.
See, anyone, all right, got it.
Yes.
I don't have any questions. I think it's a good
Yeah, I
program.
mean, it's a no-brainer. I'm just
Yeah.
curious, how long does that program last? Is it a full year?
So,
15 weeks.
as you can see, again, there's thanks again for that reimbursement term. For right now, with Century's donations and having this ability, it's going to continue on being funded for now. Again, is an internship through our department, and eventually if those funds dry up, that position would go away. But again, if that's continued to be funded in the future through Century or other organizations within the city, that would continue with UWSP as at a partnership.
Well, pick a good candidate so we can show success, and then we continue this program, because this is awesome.
Yeah, I think, Chief, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head, and other commissioners feel free to jump in, but maybe in the middle of the semester, if you can give us an update, if this gets approved, of how it's going, if there's any changes that you see, or just to give the commission a.
Yeah, absolutely. We would give an update on this, because I think it's well worth the time that we're going to invest in it, and with the right person, I think this could be very successful for us moving forward.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. All right. I'll make a motion to approve the intern from UWSP to assist with department needs effective fall semester of 2024.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Discussion with possible action to approve accreditation manager for the department effective January 1st, 2025. Chief Moody.
Yes, so we are looking to create an accreditation manager position within the department. Adding an accreditation manager to the Stevens Point Fire Department will be a major asset for many reasons, with individuals managing the activities, data, and records related to fire and ambulance services accreditation process. An ambulance operation can claim it is deserving quality service, but the accrediting agency can prove it through writing and documented procedures, systems, and reports. The first and foremost reason for this accreditation managing position is our patients and community. Accreditation assures our residents that the fire and ambulance services have met and exceed the Commission's highest standards of quality care, and that our services stand ready to care for their families in need. The second reason is our medical, mutual aid, and MABUS partners, having those communities show confidence in knowing that our fire and ambulance services are ready to deliver exceptional care and services by nationally recognized standards. Also, our department members and service will receive the recognition they deserve for achieving such a monumental goal. Accreditation could also assist with marketing our service when it comes to recruitment and retention. No matter the reason, the intent remains the same: to provide that our fire and emergency medical services meet accreditation standards, resulting in the highest level of performance and the greatest focus on our patient care, community service, and maintaining that the Stevens Point Fire Department remains at the tip of the spear moving into the future. Now, when we talk about accreditation and we talk about different departments and what that looks like, we did run the data, and currently there are only currently three EMS services in the state of Wisconsin that are accredited. And there are only 11 fire departments that are currently accredited within the state of Wisconsin. 3 of those 11 fire departments are DOD, Department of Defense departments. 3 are combination departments, and 5 are full-time career departments. This truly would set us apart from other organizations within the state. We have also included the accreditation manager, the position's job description, and ultimately would work under the Assistant Chief of EMS. We have, after working through the job description, vetted the pay with Baker Tilly and Human Resources, and this position would be part-time at this point, an LTE, limited time employee, and we have taken the time to figure out what that cost is to the department annually with no benefits, and if we would be able to fulfill the needs and be able to pay for this position. We have worked with the comptroller's office as well, and through a series of events have come up with a plan, and at this point are bringing it forward to the PFC to be able to look for approval to create this position on a limited term employment status with no benefits to assist the department with exactly what we had just talked about. Yes, sir.
Chief, one thing that I think a number of times when we write grants, accreditation pops up in there. So I'm assuming in our grant writing, this would assist us.
That is correct. Currently, and we'll be talking about our capital plan as well, and we are working hand in hand with the police department, trying to stand united in what we're asking for, and that is exactly right. We have a FEMA grant out there right now asking for additional radios and portables and mobiles, and part of that is when we look at different grants and we try to write for different things, if the department is accredited, it takes us to that next step.
besides Care Chief, does it do anything for the city as with any sort of insurance rates or?
It's different than the ISO ratings, but what this will do, eventually, we're estimating about 18 months to get through the process, roughly, and then depending on how the outcome is with the EMS side of the house, what that would look like for accreditation on the fire side as well. And once we've got that accreditation, when ISO comes back in, that is something that helps us move forward to that next step. And currently, just so everybody's aware, we are in ISO 2. ISO 1 is the best, and that's where we aim to be at our next evaluation process time.
Who would this person report to?
The way the job description is wrote and how we're going to move it forward is currently, this person would report directly to Assistant Chief Joe Gemza.
Okay.
Chief, you identified this as a limited term position. Do you have a time frame that you would look at keeping this position open? Or when would that essentially terminate?
We would look at keeping it open until we were at least done with the accreditation process. And and like I said, we're looking at roughly talking to other departments that have gone through the process and how it kind of plays out, about 18 months for the accreditation process through the department.
Okay.
Again, back to the internship, I think if this does get approved, coming back to the commission every quarter probably would be good for the commissioners to understand how things are going.
I think it would be, obviously, a great thing to bring back because these are things that we want to show improvements within our department. The internship starting this fall, we could bring that, we're looking to hit the boots, the ground running really quickly here with that, being that job applications are due for the internship program at the end of August for this fall semester. This position not starting until the first of the year, we may not hear back, or you may not hear back from me as quickly with this one.
Sure, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But we would definitely bring it back on a quarterly or even monthly to start letting you know we have the person, we started the process, where we're at and where we're looking and maybe where those time frames after we get a little bit more in-depth report and analysis on it, know a little bit more about it.
Sure, and I didn't mean them to be parallel, I just meant from time to time, maybe it's next spring.
Yep. So definitely.
Okay. All
What
right.
type of qualifications, looking at this position, whether it be administrative, or does that appear to require experience within the fire or EMS field? It's kind of unique.
It is. We're looking for more administrative qualifications in the position, but to have an understanding and a background in fire and EMS as well will only help move the process along and facilitate it that much easier. So we are looking for a rare unicorn here, but I think, with the opportunity, we might find that person. And working with the two assistant chiefs, that's why they're going to work with directly under the assistant chiefs and not somewhere else. They can direct that person as to what we're looking for, and they can run with that and then achieve collecting that data or whatever goals are set by them.
Okay.
Who does this data collection now? It's up to you guys in the reports just to kind of figure it out?
So there's certain parts that we have to report as far as on the state side for EMS and the state side and the federal side for fire as well. Certain standards have to be met, but as far as going through and documenting some of this other stuff, and remember, the reason we're looking at this accreditation is it's a neutral perspective. It's somebody coming in from the outside through this firm to accredit us, because let's be honest, we all think we are strong here and we don't like to look at our weaknesses, and we think we're running a department well. And as a department head or as other chiefs, sometimes we overlook some of that stuff. And with somebody coming in on that neutral playing field, they look at everything, and those weaknesses now we have to look at and address. And so that's part of that as well.
Anything else? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve this, yeah.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
I mean, this is going to give you a great opinion.
Discussion with possible action to approve carrying over 188 hours of vacation for Chief Moody from last year and to be used by August 16th of 2016. Or 2026, excuse me. My mistake. Chief Moody?
That'd be interesting.
Not a problem. So city policy has changed. It used to be we could only carry over 40 hours. With anything over that, we had to have approval from department heads or PFC, depending on at what level you were looking for that approval at. They have since changed that policy to 80 hours. But due to a unforeseen injury that occurred this past year, and just returning basically to my office here in the last few weeks, I was unable to use my vacation time well on workman's comp. So what we've looked at is the hours that are required. Normally, you have 6 months to use those up. And when you look at those numbers, unfortunately, that's just not realistic for a department head to walk out the door and use all those in the first 6 months. And so what we've agreed to, talking with the city through the policy, is that we are looking at extending that through 2026. That would give opportunity to be able to use those hours appropriately.
Chief, has there been any discussion about a possible combination, extension of some hours and a paycheck?
There was some discussion that was brought up by HR, and that was taken to the comptroller's office, and at this time we agreed that what we would do is, instead of just a 6 month or a 1 year, as long as they gave the 2 years, we could accommodate and get those hours used. And so that was the what we looked at, instead of some type of monetary compensation.
Chief, this hasn't been the first time you've brought forward vacation time that needed to be held over. Is any of this time from 2023?
Nothing more than what I would normally roll over from 2023. But some of it is because when we roll, I did roll hours over from 2023, but within that parameter. Now with those plus, and I used those hours within that first 6 months, but then after being injured, I was unable to take 2020, end of 2023, 2024's hours. So these are fresh hours.
Okay. The only concern I have is you are almost adverse to taking vacation on your own. It seems it's you like to work, and I can certainly understand it. And in this case, you did have an incident that took place that did restrict that. I'm not comfortable with extending that out for 2 years. I would be more comfortable with you have 1 year to use that. And yes, it's going to force you to actually schedule yourself for vacation, probably more than you want to, but you have a very robust team, an assistant chief that has 15 years of service and management. I think they can handle it without you. So therefore, I would be more, I can't see 2 years, I can see 1 year.
Okay?
Chief, did you have more, because it's your 20th year,
Yes.
and did you have more hours than you normally would as coming up for vacation?
So my anniversary date is August 16th, so on my anniversary date, I will receive additional hours towards this vacation time. And that's why if you take the 188 plus the 216, it would be the 404, which is requested in this.
So you'll have additional hours,
Nope, the total is 404.
404 hours
Yep,
to be used in 1 year?
yep.
I guess
That's
I'm
like
getting a
3
little
months.
confused. Is that the additional hours, 404?
Nope, so I have 188 hours to roll over.
Okay.
On August 16th, I will get an additional 216 hours, which will equal 404 hours that I will then have to take within the 1 year. And if you
That's not feasible.
do,
It's 10 weeks, right?
I'll do the math.
404 hours.
That's just over 50, it's 50 and a half days. So realistically, with some holidays thrown in there or something else, yeah, it'd be a little over 10 weeks of vacation. And then if you hit a holiday in there, it could be 11 weeks of vacation.
But again, this isn't the first time we've had this conversation at this board dealing with vacation that hasn't been used. And are we going to have that conversation again in 2026 or 2025? And at some point, you need to come whole and use this time. And I think extending it to 2 years just keeps pushing that down the road.
In thinking also out loud with, you had mentioned your workers' compensation, the amount of hours that you can work and can't work, that's going to be limited, potentially limited, because I'm just thinking out loud. I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm just thinking out loud if,
Well, let me put it this way. What does the city do if we don't pass this and you lose it? Correct? That's kind of what the policy says.
Right.
If you don't use your vacation time.
And it's not approved, then I would lose that. That is correct.
And there's a reason why that policy exists. And if we keep extending this down, and in this case, looking at it for 2 years, you either use it or lose it. That's been the saying for some time. So extending it 1 year when city policy allows, how long?
Normally, it's 6 months, anything over the 80 hours.
So we're already doubling that time frame to use it by approving 1 year to use it. I would stand by, I would be more comfortable with 1 year.
you two have any thoughts?
Okay.
I'm scared of one thing here is, are we going to get more requests because of this? I'm thinking what you were saying, Commissioner Zenner. I do see he's in a unique position. He's gaining benefits at a time when he can't use them. And so is it justified for him to cough them up? That's not right either. But I do have a concern of extending out a couple of years. That does, I still think, I don't know why we can't work out a combination pay on time. The time is necessary. I mean, you need the time. Been down this road myself in my own business, so I understand the complex of this, but I would like to see, no more than a year, and I'd like to see a compensation on some of it.
There's nothing we can do on compensation part of it.
Okay.
We don't
Yeah,
have any
that's city
authority on
decision.
that. And you'd said that I guess how did the conversation go with the payout?
I mean, there was discussion on it. I can take a recommendation back from the PFC if that's what you would like, or if you want to see just a year. It's whatever the PFC decides is what I will have to then take back to HR then. Because HR is ultimately where I have to go then, is to follow the standards. So if the recommendations is I have to use it in a year, then I will inform HR that is what I have to do. If the PFC says they want to see some type of form of compensation for a part of it, then I would have to know what that is, and then I would go back to HR with that as well. But either one would have to be approved here, because like Commissioner Center said, my anniversary date is August 16th. So whatever happens has to happen at this month's meeting with the recommendation from the PFC. Now, if the PFC recommends a year, that's where I would stay. I'd go back and tell HR that. If they recommend a compensation as well, then I'd have to go back, explain that, and then that would have to go through, like you said, then through Finance and Common Council as well.
How do you feel about that?
I know at the time of retirement, they can transfer unused vacation time into a health insurance
PEP plan?
Whether that's something that they are open to in this case, that's fine. It needs to get off the books. It needs to be used. You need to use vacation.
Right.
And I think extending something out 1 year, okay, I can understand it, but when we extend it out beyond that point, when it's not the first time we've had this conversation, I'm not comfortable with that, so.
So referencing the city policy as well, city policy says 80 hours is what can be carried over. And listening to what you have said, I don't know where you want to go, but if the recommendation were to be made then that if the hours have to come off the books, if 80 hours would get rolled into the 216, which would be normal, and I'd have to come in front of this commission to ask for, and then go back and ask HR to look at some type of form of compensation for the other 108 hours. I mean, I'm just trying to follow policy and make things simple too, of what you guys are kind of saying to me.
However, your hours that you have accumulated to this point and have not used, they need to be off the books within a year. August 16 of 2025, how you're able to coordinate that with HR and how many hours, if they would even do that.
Right.
That's on you.
Okay, so I guess
So we're looking at 108 hours.
whatever you guys recommend is then what I have to go back to HR with.
But if 80 hours gets rolled over,
Yep,
you have by policy, you can roll over 80 hours, so we're looking at 108 hours.
would be what I would have to go back and ask the city to ask for a monetary value on.
But that's 80 hours and you need to use it up in 6 months, correct?
Yes,
And you're asking 2 years, but we said we'd go out 1 year.
1 year. Yep, so I'd have the 80 hours plus
So you
216.
still need to ask for the request here to extend that beyond 6 months, even if it's just 80 hours.
Correct, because I'm still
Becoming a bad math equation in my head
because
right now.
technically, I'm still on workman's comp.
Right.
And, as of right now, they're looking at potentially October before I would come off that at this point.
Right.
And that's why we looked at the 6 months. From this point to October, I'm still on workman's comp. So that's why we looked at, instead of 6 months, going to a year. Well, to 2 years because for the hours, but if that's what the commission wants to do, is we would roll the 80 for the 1 year. I'd have to get approval for that because that's outside of policy.
Well, I can just do a motion and then go off of that. I would recommend that you be allowed to carry 188 hours over until August 16th, 2025. and to work with Stevens Point HR to determine whether some of those hours can transfer into a PEP account.
And I don't know if they can do that,
I don't know if they can either.
right? I just think they can only do a monetary. I don't think it can roll into the PEP until you retire.
Well, we're going to have their motion's been made. Is there a second? And then we can discuss.
I will second it.
Okay, so motion is second for discussion. Now, is there a way we can, with this motion, we can separate it out where you have I'm thinking the 108 hours and then the 80 hours as another segment, because what I'm concerned about is if you are on workman's comp till October or
Whenever.
December,
Yep.
or who knows when it is, that's my concern is, and I agree with you. Chief needs to take vacation. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just thinking logically, can it be done? That's my concern, is logically, can it be done? And because of workman's comp and having that window that he's been on workman's comp, it really takes away a whole chunk of time.
Well, the 6 months becomes 3 months.
Right. So a question I have is, instead of going a year, would you all be willing to go 16 months? Or something to compensate for that workman's comp?
Yeah, I don't want the chief to be penalized for an act of God that happened to him, you know.
Does the chief have a vacation calendar that you can share? Any dates thrown, did you have any idea, like you're going to go to, state fair, have a corn dog or something?
Right, so if you look at that, I do have some vacations coming up that I would like, obviously, normally I take vacation in the summer, just usually after my wife and daughter get out of school. Usually we go at the end of June, we come back for a Riverfront Rendezvous because we got to take care of the events, and then usually after that, my daughter's birthday, we usually are gone. Obviously this year, that did not occur because of surgical reasons, and so again, that's where I'm at, and that's why I have the additional hours, because normally I would get down to that 80 to be able to carry over. This year it just didn't work because I've been on work comp since December 16th of 2023.
Yeah, I'd say
Wait a second, you've been on workman's comp, you haven't been able to take vacation this whole year?
I've been on workman's comp since December 6th. The initial injury was December 16th of 2023. Yes. So I've had 4 months of last year to be able to take that time, and then this year dealing with workman's comp and all the stuff that's going on, and then having the surgery, and then now this week being the first week full 8 hours just back in the office.
I thought it was May.
May is when I had the evaluation and they decided to do the surgery, and then in June I had the surgery.
Okay. So you're restricted, I mean, you can take vacation today if you wanted to. 8 hours.
Technically, yes, I could.
So you're not restricted from taking
Right.
vacation.
It's
You
just then I have to follow those parameters as well on vacation as I do workman's comp. Obviously, you can't do
Right.
something different. So my vacation has been very limited in what I have taken because of my restrictions due to workman's comp.
Are you still want to stick with your motion, or are you willing to move on?
Well, I did a motion, so I guess,
Well, we can, you could, in theory, you could adjust your motion if you wanted to, and then we'd have to resecond
I would have to
that.
amend it.
Amend it, there.
Okay.
That would be,
I don't know, I'm not as clever on this.
yeah,
thing, so-
neither am I.
Do we have to go through the motion first and then,
I think we can amend it. I think.
Yes,
you
so-
wanna amend it and then.
I would amend it to what does 16 months take us out to? I don't want to push it into 2026, so
December
until December 31st
of
of 2025.
And then,
I will back that up, yeah,
second.
the amendment.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments?
Yeah, the only thing I'd comment is I would encourage HR to consider. So we fight too hard to keep good people. I would not want something to happen because of complications that nobody foresaw.
I agree. That would be nice if HR would work with the chief on this.
And with the motion, if approved, I will bring back next month what HR and I and the comptroller's office can all resolve as well, so that you all know how many hours we're actually taking forward to use by that December 31st of 2025 date and what we were able to get off the books as well. And I will bring that update back next month.
All right. All right, we have a motion, a second. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Discussion with possible action to approve the Stevens Point Fire Department capital budget for 2025. Chief.
So our capital budget, again, reoccurring capital budget items, turnout gear, general fire equipment, technical rescue equipment, fire hose and fire nozzles, and training site updates are all reoccurring capital improvement projects that we have to do in order to continue to move forward within our department. Some of these things I feel should be within the operational budget. They are not. They're in the capital improvements budget. And so with that, I consider these reoccurring each and every year, and I keep them in just that order that we just discussed. But outside of my reoccurring capital improvement projects, what I'd like to talk about is communications. Communications is number one. We are standing united with the city police department and the other departments within the city saying that radios and communications need to be upgraded. We currently have $400,000 that we're asking for, and with that, that would replace all of our mobiles and portable radios to be able to, again, just like the lieutenant had said earlier with the PD, our stuff is becoming out of date, it's unrepairable, and what we're doing is we're using some of our spare radios as parts in order to move forward. We are also looking at Motorola radios, and again, we would also be looking at the geolocate on our fire grounds. So if a firefighter was to call out a mayday and would be trapped in a fire or there would be an issue, we could locate where they would be within that building. We also have a FEMA grant that we have wrote for this capital improvement line item. So if approved for the FEMA grant, we then would set this money aside and give it back to the city to use it other places, just like we did with our SCBA's a few years ago. We also potentially are looking at a $100,000 split. As you can see in the notes, we would be willing to work with the city and work through the Motorola process of getting some into the department onboarded, and then some of those mobiles updating in the vehicles as we move forward into the following year. Also, what you'll see down at the end of the capital request in red, it says any new requests have to be in red and listed below. Unfortunately, the first two are not requested requests that are new. These are reoccurring, but for some reason, they were taken off of the capital request sheet. So I will question that with the comptroller and the mayor later when we have those meetings. But one would be the Station 1 apparatus bay updates, in dire need with the change in our apparatuses, the size, the shapes, and how we put them in there, as far as where our drop lines are for air, to be able to respond quickly and make sure our apparatuses are fueled up with air. Also to have electric, to have them plugged in, and to upgrade the floors, repaint the walls, and just give it an update, since the building was built in 1967 and is in some need of some updates and true repairs. Also, the training site building, you can see that on there. We continue to ask for that. We're looking at it a little differently. If the city is willing to fund half, the fire department itself is looking to take on, kind of like what Midstate did with the Ameta Center. We would go out and solicit for donations within the community to try to raise the other half of that building by ourselves with community partners in order to produce a training site or a regional training center for all sorts of different programs to come to Stevens Point. This past year, as we continue to move forward, like we did with building the new three-story burn facility out there and other things, we have gotten contacts from all over the state and Midwest asking if we actually had a classroom there, and if so, they would like to bring new programs to the area. Unfortunately, we don't have that classroom yet, so we see the need and we need to continue to push forward for that. Lastly, station capital. This past year, the last 2 years, 3 years, we've had flooding in the basements. We have had the sub pump pit literally rot out of the basement floor. We've had many drain tile issues. There's HVAC issues, one thing after another. And what we're realizing is very quickly within our operational budget, we cannot sustain another 0% increase in our operational budget for next year, for the 5th year in a row. And then also have to deal with emergency situations that pop up that are needs within our facility to actually make them work. So we're asking for additional funding there as well. So that's what we would be looking at in our capital improvement projects.
Is this flooding stuff new?
No, we flooded, Chief Gemza, correct me if I'm wrong, we flooded 2 years ago. That was very significant. And then this past year, we flooded again. The first time was due to drain tile and a few other issues around the building. As many of you have realized, we cut down all our shrubbery. We redid some stuff on the outside of the facility to help where they thought that was needed. We also had people come in and look at our drain tile. We've updated that. The sump pump was another issue and why it flooded. So we are working on things. They're just old, and we're just continuing to upgrade them and update them as needed.
Well, Chief, I've visited your building many times, and I've been amazed since I've been a commissioner of over 10 years how you guys can operate out of those buildings. I know personally because a relative of mine was involved when those buildings were put up, and he's been dead for over 30-some years. So I'm well aware of it. I also look at the size of the equipment. I can remember when a fire truck was not much longer than a station wagon, and an ambulance was just the same. And now you're dealing with vehicles of much larger size and much more capacity. So I just support anything and everything. Both services in this city need adequate units to work out of. Otherwise, how can they do their job? It's impossible. This is kind of like when you go back to, you always go back to Grandma's house, and you never see the problems till one day Grandma dies and you go to clean the house out and you realize, how the heck did she survive in here? Well, we're at that stage with both facilities. And unfortunately, and I'm a taxpayer, I realize that it costs money. But the one reason I live in Stevens Point is because of emergency services. They're there when I need them. And so I fully support. I do have one question on the turnout gear. This is replacement equipment, or is this in the budget for new people?
A little bit of everything. So our personnel, after they are off of their 1 year of probation, they receive a new set of turnout gear that comes out of this capital improvement project. Also, at the end of 10 years, turnout gear, the shelf life of turnout gear expires, so they cannot wear turnout gear past the 10-year mark. And so we actually have to outfit some of our people who have been there 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years with new additional equipment. So somebody who is up for new turnout gear, their turnout gear is expiring after 10 years, they would get a new set of turnout gear. And then also that what would be underneath this would be any damaged turnout gear. So if somebody at a fire scene tears one of the shells or one of the liners, we could fix it, or we may have to replace it. That would come out of this capital improvement project as well.
Well, that's one thing I get to see when I approve bills every month, both for maintenance for the buildings and for the cost of we've gone through so many new people, and as a result, we got to have new equipment because it's got to fit that person. So I'm fully supportive of this. Again, I'm just amazed if you guys can do it, what you're asking. I do believe we're going to run headlong into a problem to get it approved. But I fully support you on all your requests, as I do the police department.
Does the training site generate revenue,
So
or can it?
it can, it has for the city. For the department itself, no. But it definitely can and has for the city, and it could for the department in the future. Again, that's why, just as an example, the state of Wisconsin is looking at bringing a smoke diver program to the state of Wisconsin. We had one individual go to a smoke diver program this past year and come back with the certification. And that is the elite. And I was questioned, actually, we had lots of questions, set up some time to come to the training facility and look at what we had for abilities. They wanted to have the Wisconsin State Smoke Diver Program here in Stevens Point at our training center. And the only reason we couldn't host it was because we didn't have, they wanted a facility right there on site to be able to train at, and we just didn't have it for them. We met every other qualification they needed.
So people would pay to come, like Marshfield would pay money to send to be the training site?
Or certification programs, or other people would pay to come use that facility, yes. And the PD has been gracious enough in the past to allow us to use their training classroom here. Candy always is willing to help me out and schedule those things. Chief Cuso allows us to use it when we come into town to bring certification classes in. DCI, Department of Criminal Investigation, is coming up here in October. They're running an 80-hour state certified fire investigator program. We will have everyone in the city of Stevens Point for 2 weeks straight for that program. Now, they're willing to come here or to the courtrooms to do their classroom side and then go out there to do the practical side. Some certification courses or other organizations or associations won't do that. So they're looking for somewhere where that site or that classroom is on site.
How big a building are you looking at, Chief?
What we would like to do is we'd like to build it 3 bays wide. Reason being is we would put a fire apparatus and a med unit down there, and then one open apparatus bay to be able to train in a climate-controlled building, whether that's during the dead of the winter or the dead of the summer, to be able to work on those types of trainings. Then there would be a classroom there and a division chief of training's office. So not a large facility, facility, but a facility that would be able to facilitate the needs of what these people are looking for.
And where would that be located?
It would be on the training site itself on Water Street, down by across from the county home.
So you have river access almost there too, so you could do like training on the river? Or?
On the back side of the site, there is some river access, but it's really, that area of the river is not ideal for us to do our training, the kind of training we're looking to do. But we have talked about potentially incorporating some water rescue training right on the site.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Stevens Point's practically the bullseye. I think that people from all over the state should come here for everything, you know?
Well, that site is ideal considering its background. I mean, that site goes back to being this old city dump at one time. So that land is not much good for a whole lot of things, but for this would be ideal.
That is correct.
I mean, no developer's going to want that land.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no developer's going to want that land.
Chief, where did you come up with 1.6 million?
So we worked with one of the construction companies in a very unique situation. They actually are willing to come in and put the bid together and the blueprints together how we see fit. We pay some upfront money, which is minimal, but in the long run, hopefully they get the bid on the facility. And when we crunched the numbers and looked at everything, the facility is going to cost about $3 to $3.2 million to build. And so if we come up with half, we would be looking to ask the community for the other half.
Okay, the reason I ask is in 2025, it was $1,280,000, and now it's,
And the reason that is, the significant change is just in 1 year, that was the change in the cost of that building.
and so that's where I'm going with this. The longer this goes, the more money it costs.
That is
The
correct.
longer it goes, the more money. The longer it goes, the more money. And if this keeps getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off, before too long, it'll be $4 million.
And what we look at for one of our facilities, I have to be reasonable as a chief and understanding a tax base in a community. We look at one of our facilities lasting 75 years. So if Station 1 was built in the 60s, I expect it to last 75 years. If Station 2 was built in the 80s, I expect it to last 75 years before I come in front of anybody and ask for something else. And that's why this facility that we're asking for is $3.2 million, because we know if we get it, it's going to have to last us 75 years and we're going to have to grow into it. We can't go with a possibility of making it work now, and then by next year, we're already asking for something different.
I understand.
So that's where those numbers come from.
Okay. Anything else? We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the fire department suggested capital budget request.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Discussion with possible action to approve the possibility of out-of-state travel for Stevens Point Fire Department members in 2025.
So like normal, I don't have the crystal ball. I don't know what next year is going to bring, but potentially if there's any out-of-state travel that may occur with our department, again, by city policy, I'm writing that if it falls within the parameters of our approved operational budget, and we have the funding for it next year, that I, as the chief, would be able to deem that as appropriate travel and training. Again, if it falls within the parameters of our operational budget that is approved by all of you as commissioners and by Finance and Common Council in November of this year.
And you'd still need to take, even if we approve this, you still need to take it to finance and
Correct.
for the future when you have identified the particular?
Yes, yes. So we would take that forward to finance and to the Common Council.
Anything else?
I move to approve the request for out-of-state travel for 2025 documentation as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, and a second. Any other questions, comments, discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Fire Chief's report, EMS report, EM report. Chief?
Okay, so fire report, and I probably should be under the EMS report because Chief Gemza has been working very hard at this and very diligently with our administrative assistant. But we are continuing to do stay interviews within our department. So as many of you know, when somebody leaves our department, they have an exit interview if they so choose with commissioners and HR. We wanted to be proactive, and what we're looking at is doing stay interviews with all our current employees. Giving them the opportunity to speak on good and bad things, giving them questions and giving them opportunities to think about it ahead of time before they come in, and we ask those questions and we look for their answers. When all the data is put together, because we're still diligently working on making sure that everybody had a voice at the table, we will compile all of that data, we will review all of that data, and with that data, we will be able to move forward with things that we are doing well already and continue to capitalize on those things, and then things that maybe the department feels we need to change directions on or look at a little bit more closely, we can address those things as well. So stay tuned. I think when we get truly through all the stay interviews and all the data there, I'd like Chief Gemza to potentially report maybe a very an outline or a brief overview of what we found within the department and where we're going into next year and with what we found. Riverfront Rendezvous continues to be was very successful. Again, we couldn't have done it without all the men and women who really put a foot forward in helping us or being hired back to work the events. A special thanks to Lieutenant Westfall, who coordinates a lot of the day-to-day events when it comes to the parade and it comes to the Kids Day, the first aid kits that we hand out. Battalion Chief Hoffensberger put together our extrication demonstration, and then Division Chief Sinner and the Deputy Fire Marshal Malin with putting together all of the permits and firework issues and ordeals that they have to deal with to make sure that the citizens see a great fireworks display. So just wanted to give everyone a big shout out for that and a thank you. It was very successful. There was a Manawa Dam breach, as many of you may have seen. We did respond to Manawa for that significant event. And what happened was Waupaca County asked if we would be willing to send our water rescue team to that location. So we did deploy the 3-person water team from the station. By MABUS requirements, were to send at minimum a 4-person team. Division Chief Ewing hooked up with the team and made it a 4-person team. They were ready to go, boots on the ground, after responding to the request, and Chief Gemza went as our duty chief to facilitate things with the needs through the operational period. So again, I just wanted to thank our members who responded to that. Continuing to do splash pads throughout the city. We did one up at Spash. Spash had a splash pad. Yeah, there we go. We got this. I can say it. Was successful. Then again went over by Washington and had one this past week. Very successful. People came out from all over. We had people from Wapaka drive over just to join in on the festivities. So people from the community couldn't get enough of it. I kept hearing good, positive feedback on everything. So again, our members worked hard in the heat, because when we do those pop-up splash pads, it's only because the heat index, has risen to that situation where we feel we need to do it. So it becomes a lot. And then lastly, under the fire chief's report, we continue to work on language with the city on the duty chief standby pay. Currently, we have a duty chief that is assigned to a role of 07:30 on Monday morning to 07:30 the following Monday morning. And any responses out of the area or internally for the department, the duty chief is roles and responsibilities is to respond to those things. As of right now, there is a discussion with modifying City Policy 108 under standby pay to include exempt fire department, the fire department duty chief to that policy, which would be a $40 stipend a day. There was a lot of discussion yesterday in city staff. It's been tabled. It is not moving forward at this time for this month to go to finance or to Common Council, but I do think that potentially it may go forward in the future, and just keeping everybody informed on that as well. The other thing under the fire chief's report that I'd like to point out is we continue to have an increase in our call volume. Currently, as we sit this year, we have a 28.84% increase in our call volume from last year, and it also breaks out where those increases have occurred. So you can look through that as well. Again, we've talked about many times, and I know Commissioner Morozek, as my liaison, and Commissioner Zenner have asked where we're seeing those big changes or what that means under that good intent call and those false alarm calls. And again, those are those battery detector or smoke detectors with battery issues, maybe a faulty CO detector, those types of things that we're seeing more and more responses for. Under the EMS report, again, public education with the vehicle display down at Riverfront. We continue to do ride-alongs with both our paramedic students and our basic students. Right now, we're kind of in the season of getting all our basic students through the process and making sure they get their contacts. And then also continuing training. Training has been a big part of the department moving forward, and training every day, Monday through Friday, every afternoon. And one of the trainings we brought in this past month was from, it gives us a different perspective when it's somebody you know giving the training. Rick Anderson is currently a dean at Mid-State Technical College, helped many of our members through their paramedic program, assist with Chief Gemza in helping facilitate trainings at our department. And he went through a rough patch a while back and wanted to give that perspective from the patient side. Because sometimes when you're the patient, you look at things a lot different than being the care provider. And he's been able to sit on both sides of the fence and see what it's really about. So it was good to bring him home and have him hit home what it's like to be the patient and not the caregiver. to all of our caregivers at our department. So I personally really appreciate that. I know Chief Gemza does and the rest of the department, and Rick Anderson does a great job for us. So again, I can't say enough. And then lastly, the emergency management report. Again, a lot to talk about when it comes to Riverfront. We're doing they just did some Stevens Point Area School District Family Reunification Center training. We're going to work on that because obviously those of us who are in emergency services and been around know that that terminology is outdated and no longer used in a true emergency situation. So we're gonna work with the area schools to help them update that stuff as well. He is continuing, and I say he, our emergency manager, Justin Malin, continues to increase his knowledge, continuing the training to dive further into the EM process. Sentry, again, I talk about Sentry. They really stepped up, and they're going to donate some cubicles coming up for our emergency operations center here in the city to be able to help get that up and running. He is also working with the Family Assistance Center, discussions with UWSP in Portage County along with the state, and getting involved with additional EM meetings when it comes to UWSP, the county, EM, so that we can work on a united front if there was actually a catastrophic issue that was to hit the city of Stevens Point. How would that look? And then lastly, he just wanted to point out that we have had a firefighter paramedic right now on modified duty helping out with projects and has really moved the emergency management program forward in the city and what we're looking for in just a matter of a few weeks. Every day being able to walk in and work several hours on EM versus, a day a week or a few hours here and there. So again, a special thanks there. Any questions in regards to any and all of the reports?
Chief, I got two for you.
Okay.
Well, number one is the Manawa thing. Is that part of mutual aid, or do we send them a bill, or what is this?
That is part of MABUS.
Okay.
And so what ended up happening there is understanding MABUS, they requested additional resources from Portage County. Majority of them came out of Amherst when it came to the fire side. The EMS side took a pass, and then the Swift Water team kicked into action and went there to assist. And the only reason we took a pass on the EMS side is because we had to look at the large-scale event that was going on over there with them already having EMS agencies called into that area. Amherst not only covering the east side of the county, but the west side of Waupaca County during that situation. And to make one of our Swift Water teams leave the area, we can only deplete our cross-staffed personnel so far.
Okay, so it makes total sense. The other one is kind of I don't think there's an answer, but I find it rather unusual. I was looking under simultaneous calls. They're all down except 4 out at one time, just about double. That's a rather unusual amount.
So what's happening more and more, and what we're seeing within the department, is not only are we having that 1 or 2 calls at the same time, now we're having 3 and 4 calls at the same time, and we're putting 3 or 4 ambulances out all at the same time. 2 firefighter, paramedics, or cross-staffed personnel out on each apparatus. Very regularly, what we have our company officers do, our lieutenants who run each house, they have to give a shift report at the end of every shift. And more frequently, I am seeing in the reports that we have 3 ambulances out simultaneously throughout the day, 2, 3, or 4 times a day. Or we have fire apparatus is out and a second fire call or a rescue or a specialty team is requested, coming out more and more. And how we're looking to, work through those struggles is how we're looking to prepare the department in the future.
Well, I wanted this brought forward because I think it speaks well to something that I've been concerned about for a while, is whether our department is big enough. You stop and think, when you got 4 units out with 2 to 3 guys per unit, you just about emptied out your shift. And if it's happening more and more, it only proves one thing: is our department big enough to handle everything we're doing?
So to answer your question, if there's 4 ambulances out, that means there's 2 on each ambulance. That means there's 8 running emergency scenes or emergency calls at that time. And minimum staffing is 10. So that would leave 2 people back to staff whatever apparatus is needed next to facilitate the next emergency.
Well, I just want people to be aware that, yes, an ambulance goes out and there's 2 people, but then count the number of ambulances that are out, and plus the fire truck gets called. I mean, everybody, your department has enough when you're sitting still, but when you're in action, which you're in action more and more, do you have enough? And I just want the community to be well aware of. I question seriously whether we have enough.
And you're exactly right. And we continue to have additional calls. We continue to have unique calls. I think the longer and longer I stay at the department, the more I see. Yes, was it yesterday, Chief Gumza, we rescued a deer? Yes. We got a call for, we know you rescue ducks, but do you rescue deer? And I said, well, this is going to be an interesting rescue. So we deployed an engine company, a squad company, a technical rescue company, a battalion chief, a med unit to go rescue a deer. We were successful, but again, when you think you've seen it all, obviously you haven't. And again, good job by the crew yesterday to facilitate that, but
the TV camera had a great view of the deer. Did not show a single firefighter.
But again, we
But
continue.
that's one of those things, you don't have that anywhere in the program for the day.
So, yes.
All right.
Motion to accept the chief's report as submitted.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries, and we are adjourned.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.